Good evening and welcome to the Danvers Planning Board meeting of December 12, 2023. First item on the agenda, public hearing zoning bylaw amendments. An overview from staff of the proposed zoning bylaw amendments for special town meeting February 5th, 2024. The public hearing is regarding a number of updates to the following sections of the Danvers zoning bylaw for purposes of clarity, consistency, and reflection of current Massachusetts case law. Section 1, purpose and application. Section 2, administration. Section 3, general provisions. Section 4, site plan review. Section 6, use regulations. Section 7, dimensional requirements. Section 9, accessory uses. Section 10, off-street parking standards. Section 15, healthcare district. Section 16, waterfront village district. Section 18, character-based zoning districts. Section 19, Danvers Town Center core district. Section 20, Danvers Town Center Live-Work District. Section 21, High Street Mixed Use Corridor District. Section 22, Maple Street Traditional Neighborhood Development Smart Growth Overlay District. Section 27, Groundwater Protection District Bylaws. Section 29, Affordable Housing Provision. Section 30, Special Permits. Section 31, Floodplain Overlay District. Section 32, Hawthorne West. Section 34, Congregate and Independent Housing for the Elderly. Section 36, Assisted Living Residences. Section 37, Sign Bylaw. Section 40, Definitions. Table 1, Table of Allowable Uses. Table 2, Table of Dimensional Requirements Residential. The public hearing was advertised on November 9th, 2023 and November 16th, 2023, and a public notice for the proposed amendments can be found in the office of the town clerk. Josh?
Very good. Can everyone hear me okay? It's kind of muzzled.
We're a little, yeah.
I don't know. Okay.
Little,
Sure, I'll try and...
want to try that one? Oh. Little audio visual problem at the moment. We'll be right with you.
Hello, is this a little bit better or similar? Testing, 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 testing.
Just stand just don't speak right into it. Just give it a little bit of leeway.
Is that too close? A little bit better?
A little bit better, yeah, no, just turn up your mic.
Okay. Can everyone hear me okay?
It's a little fuzzy.
Something we can move forward with potentially?
I'll try to like, move back and I'll try turning it up.
All right, so I guess we'll do the best we can. Just wanted to kind of give a summary or overview of the zoning amendments which we had discussed at our last meeting. Jim and the chair had mentioned that we can kind of gloss over the MBTA stuff since we had spoken about it several times. So I'm going to start with the adaptive reuse language. So the idea, or the kind of the motivation for, including this new language is the opportunity for property owners and potentially developers to, use existing building, save buildings that as a community would be valuable from a cultural resource standpoint. This is sort of another tool in the toolbox, an opportunity, to reuse buildings that we'd like to save, but maybe because of financial or other means, just how it's constructed or, various other reasons it's difficult to reuse the property. So we thought that it might be better. We had talked about this last spring also. We had sort of modified some of the language with the the ad hoc historic preservation committee kind of worked through, I think, some of the, kind of refined the language a little bit. So the idea is that this would be included in section 30, which is the special permit section. It's about 2 pages of sort of with the kind of regulations associated with it. And so to be eligible in order to, utilize this or apply for the adaptive reuse, the building would have to be constructed prior to 1890. And essentially, a property owner or an applicant would have the ability to apply for a special permit with the ZBA for any of the uses that are currently listed in the use table in the at the rear of the zoning bylaw. So table 2, and they would also have to adhere to all the dimensional and parking requirements. You'd also have the ability to you could request waivers or other waivers from some of the other zoning stuff, but that you'd have to request it as part of the special permit process. And a significant majority of the projects, if they were able to get a special permit from the ZBA, would have to come to the planning board for site plan review if they met any of the triggers in the site plan review section 4 section. So we think that sort of what kind of what happens today with the majority of commercial related special permits that the ZBA grants, they are also reviewed and approved by the planning board during the site plan review process. So it'd be very similar to that. So at the ZBA with a special permit, it's a pretty high bar. It would need a 4 out of 5. It would need a super majority vote. So 4 to 5 members. So I think that's it for that particular item. I'm not sure if there are any questions or comments on that language.
Any questions from the board? No? Lou?
Yeah, Mike, did you?
No, I'm all set. Sorry.
Just a quick question for staff. I guess just in terms of the way it would work. So obviously, if the applicant had to go before, obviously if they went before planning board, if they had to go before conservation commission or historic district commission, they would go to ZBA first as the special permit granting authority.
It seems that way.
Just as typical to ZBA.
Yeah,
go to
it
ZBA
could. Some of
first.
those things could likely be concurrent in some manner. I guess it sort of just, it's kind of not vague, but it sort of depends on each individual project. But I mean, if something's in, generally, since it's the use and it's like kind of the most important thing, it makes sense that would likely be the kind of first stop for sure. That makes sense. Now, depending on how that goes, even with, kind of like what happens here at the planning board, we often have concurrent applications with the Conservation Commission.
Sure.
That's possible. It would just depend. And so if they're doing adaptive reuse, they probably wouldn't be going to Pres because they probably wouldn't be tearing it down, because the whole point of this is to not do that.
Mm-hmm.
So other than potentially the Conservation Commission, it would probably start at the ZBA, kind of like you alluded to.
Got it. Okay. Great. Thank you.
Questions? Jean?
No.
Tim?
No questions.
I don't have any further questions. Questions from the audience on adaptive reuse? If you have any questions, if you could please identify yourself and go to the microphone. Hearing none, let's move on to the next topic, please.
So the next section is we're calling it housekeeping, trying to keep it as housekeeping and not policy as possible. Some of the kind of macro level changes that we're talking about, as part of the housekeeping article, there were just several instances where the building commissioner should be changed to say zoning administrator. We worked with a land use attorney consultant, who's a consultant who works on, who reviews and helps communities with their zoning bylaws throughout Mass. And he helped us, wordsmith and modify some language, just, to meet like current state and case law, and just there were places in the, we were trying to not change policy per se, but where we sit administratively when the public and our applicants, come in and say, what does this sentence mean? We were just, were there places we thought that might be beneficial for the language or wording could be a little bit more clear. So, and then another kind of larger item is the bylaws sort of set up where there's a couple of the zoning districts. The language related to that zoning district was all in one place, including the signage, where the majority of the signage is in section 37, and we were just basically copying and pasting the signage from various zoning districts and putting it all in one section, just to be consistent. This is one of the just kind of changes that Mr. Mark Barbowski proposed, that we basically just strike out that first sentence, just kind of wordsmith and strike out that first phrase of that sentence from section 1. I would say that out of housekeeping, that section 3 and section 4 were probably the most. There was a little bit of policy, but these sections have the most kind of changes or modifications. From a policy standpoint, one of the more moderate policy changes was just related to reconstruction after voluntary demolition, where if someone was like a non-conforming structure and they wanted to tear it down but just wanted to rebuild, if they wanted to make it like bigger, it used to be a finding with the ZBA. and what's being proposed now, using state law and case law, is that it would now require a special permit. I would say section 4 was another section that had a decent amount of redlining, just modification. Currently, site plan review, how it's written in the zoning bylaw right now, it's a public meeting. But Mr. Rabowski said that we should change it from public meeting to public hearing. So it'll be very similar, basically following the same procedures that's required when you do a special permit. So for all site plans that would be in front of the board, they would need to be advertised in the paper twice, and all the abutters within 300 feet would need to receive notification. And then just another change with the site plan decisions is that we would take out the action deadline language, and once we would, the site plans would become public hearings, the board, once the public hearing was closed, staff would have 90 days to file a decision. So very similar to the special permit procedural. This was just language that Mr. Barbowski proposed that we add to section 9, accessory uses. Once again, in section 10 regarding off-street parking, Mr. Barbowski's kind of condensed. There was always language that allowed the planning board to kind of reduce or waive parking requirements, and he just sort of wordsmithed and kind of modified a couple paragraphs regarding just the language related to reducing parking. Section 18, the character-based zoning districts are the downtown. It's the 4 zoning districts downtown. We were just there was a section within that section that was related to affordable housing downtown, and then in section 29 is affordable housing for the rest of town. And the intent was always to have the same language for both, for them to be they mirror each other. So we're just moving the affordable housing section from downtown to section 29 so that we just have an affordable housing section for the entire town. From a policy standpoint, there's wordsmithing, but the policy and requirements and the percentages of how many units are owed and in fractional payments are remaining the same. Just a couple instances of replacing building commissioner with the zoning administrator in section 22. Section 27, just adding the word overlay. It is an overlay, but we're just trying to make it clear it's an overlay district. So like I just mentioned, section 29 of the affordable housing, just merging section 18, a portion, the affordable housing section from 18, just merging it here. This section 30 has the special permit criteria or the findings, for the board, the planning board and the zoning board of appeals when they're reviewing special permit applications, things to consider. Not necessarily policy. I would say it's probably above wordsmithing for sure. I'd say that this is essentially replacing what we currently have. It's certainly in the same vein as what we currently have. This is language that Mr. Grabowski proposed, and so we thought that it would probably it appears to be appropriate, and fair, for what we currently it is very similar to what we have, but it is I would say a replacement of some nature. We had 7 previously, and we now have 6. So, just replacing in section 31, just replacing the building commissioner one time with zoning administrator. In section 37, signage bylaw. So we are proposing just increasing the kind of the signage related to like a new business, that kind of like we just opened, or we're opening, or just kind of like temporary new signs. We are proposing just to increase the amount of days. We think that's appropriate. Additionally, in this section is moving just the current signage language and the following sections, these zoning district requirements, and just copying them and then just bringing them down, just section 37. So all of the signage in this is for every zoning district is in the same place. This particular definition, we just in the definition it was just referencing the wrong section. So we just wanted to correct the right section number. In the dimensional table, it currently we're just trying to codify what right now, accessory structures in the table says 10 feet in a max of 10 height, a max of 10 feet in height. We would just like to increase that number so that it's sort of aligned with what administratively we've been kind of interpreting it. And then also to modify footnote 3 in that table with an and instead of an or. Just to be, once again, to be more like to clarify and be clear as possible. And, that's what we, in terms of the housekeeping article, that's what we're proposing at this time.
Okay. Questions from the board? Tim?
One very quick question. Did we ever consider updating the definition of self-storage?
That's certainly a possibility. We have, in terms of timing, we have not at this moment, like, we still can. It's just, right, I know that there's certainly a number of definitions that we could make better. I know that that was an item for a project that we had in the past year. We're not proposing it at this time, but if that's something that the board, it's sort of like we could make changes, continually make changes. It was just something that at this time, it's not that we didn't want to, it was just sort of a timing piece where we just didn't get to that. But we have a little bit of time. We could talk about and we could talk about it for a little further in the meeting, but we probably were gonna recommend at least continuing this to at least the next meeting. If the board feels strongly that that's something that we can do, we can. Basically between now and January 9th, we could potentially, if it's the will of the board for that to be something that we include, we still can. I guess I would bring it back to the board if that's.
I mean, I'm certainly not in favor of just throwing a giant curveball in the final hour.
No,
But I think in terms of housekeeping, right, if we think there is a lack of clarity in some of the definitions, that would strike me as housekeeping, right? Something that's not necessarily changing the spirit of.
Yeah,
definition,
for
just
sure.
clarifying it.
I mean, there probably are a couple more than that if time wasn't an issue, I would try and change as much as we can. That we're, is that one, I guess, if you feel like that was something, if the board felt like that was something that was very beneficial, which is fine, which is definitely, okay. That's something that we could propose between now and, we could write language for that. And, between now and January 9th, we could send it out, and then, on January 9th, when we potentially close the public hearing, we could all kind of, if we're okay with what we are proposing, I think that's possible, if that's something that the group wants.
Do you have an issue with that definition, the current definition, or?
Oh, it's just because of the example this year of something that very clearly wasn't a self-storage facility being approved as a self-storage facility, because it wasn't a clear enough definition.
They tried to use it as a warehouse, basically.
Yeah.
And call it a self-storage.
I would be in favor only if there was a readily available definition from other planning resources that we think could slot in easily. If it's a matter of you all sitting in meetings constantly and wordsmithing it and agonizing over it, I don't think it's worth it.
If we were gonna, I wouldn't say that it's a very heavy lift.
Could we ask our consultant, for his opinion?
Sure, we could probably,
if that's problematic.
If that's like one of the only, I don't think that, I think it's something that we could definitely do internally, or like at the staff level, that's something that we could probably definitely do. Between now and January 9th, I would probably send, just to make sure that we're sort of okay, I would probably send it out to the group before the 9th, so if there were comments or changes, that we'd be all set for the next meeting. We could certainly do that.
Okay. Thanks, Tim. Jean, question?
No, no questions.
All right. Lou?
Yeah, just a, Josh, just want, I know at our last meeting when it comes to special permits, I know we were talking about some of the language. I guess one of the criterion is, I think, compatibility with size, scale, and design of other structures in the neighborhood in social structures.
Right.
So if you, I know there's been an update on that, but could you?
Yeah,
give
sure. Yeah, so we did reach out to Mr. Bobrowski regarding that item, and in correspondence with Brian, he indicated to Brian that that was maybe maybe it was included in the language in draft form, but probably should not be. He recommended it not be included in the proposed language. So, and Brian was in favor of also removing it. So,
Okay.
that's we're proposing to remove it and just end the sentence at neighborhood.
Okay, so the language would say, because I think the concern was that either you define what the term social structures is or remove it, and so I guess in the opinion in consultation with our consultant, it's to remove it.
Correct. That's right.
Okay, got it. Okay, I just wanted just to follow up on that. So
For sure.
I have nothing further.
Thank you. Michael?
No questions, thank you.
All right. Just a question on the presentation at the FinCom and town meeting and so on. Are we going to, town meeting members will have the actual text, several pages of that, and these, is this going to be up on the screen, if you will?
Sure.
How are we going to present it?
Yeah. So, if we sort of are okay with what's been proposed and there are no questions about comments about the language, I could talk a little bit about what I see as like the next steps, or if that would be helpful.
Well, before I get to that, I mean, just, I'm going to open up questions on this particular topic to the audience first before we
Sure.
get to the next steps.
Yeah, sure.
Anyone in the audience on the housekeeping items, if you would, come to the mic and identify yourself. Thank you. Housekeeping? Let's check what it is. It's always something at these meetings.
Pull a fire alarm.
Venue.
Yeah, is that a fire alarm? It's the
Something
fire
like
alarm.
It might be a door.
Is it a fire alarm or is it a?
That would be flashing if it was a fire alarm.
So maybe an exit door?
Maybe. It's not a fire alarm.
It's not a fire alarm.
We can't close that door though.
Oh, we can't.
We gotta keep that door open.
We do.
Only because, I think, because it's a
Public hearing.
I don't.
public hearing.
I mean,
It's not locked, all right.
yeah.
Just for-
I mean, there's windows, so if some. Can everyone still hear? Ish.
Talk nice and loud, William.
Shouldn't be a problem. Good evening, Bill Bates, Town Meeting Member, Precinct 4. Could we get back to the Section 9, I guess it is, the accessory uses? I'm still concerned, what we talked about last week about reducing the height allowed for a new garage or an extended garage from 30 feet down to 20. And
No,
where exactly is
Yep.
that language?
we would actually be increasing the number, not decreasing the number. The number currently is 10, and we're proposing to increase it to 20.
Correct, but through you, Mr. Chairman, Brian last week said that you know, without this change, somebody could have a 30-foot garage, and this will no longer allow them to do that. And I don't know where that language is. Maybe,
It's
like
in
I
the
said,
dimensional table, dimensional table. I think if you scroll
Okay.
down on the presentation,
Oh, yeah, okay.
if we go to table 2, dimensional table,
Yeah, I have it right here.
on the presentation,
There was never a table. Oh,
it says it on
sorry,
there.
yes, sorry, I hear, yep, I missed, yep.
Yep, right there.
and again, that's where I'm concerned. You say you're reducing it, or you're increasing it from 10 to 20, but the comment was made by staff that it would no longer allow for a 30-foot garage.
By right.
Okay, and that was my next question. What's the option if you wanted to go for a 30-foot? You have to go for a variance, is that what it would be called?
Yes.
And the other concern I have is where it talks about the language, the definition, Section 9, accessory uses. You're proposing to add language that says, in addition to those uses specified below, other accessory uses are allowed provided they meet the definition of, quote, accessory uses, which is a use incidental and subordinate to the principal use and located on the same lot. Why is that language being added?
Well, again, I think I mentioned the example of Roy's Garage, where you had a existing structure, which was the garage with one bay, and he was able to add an enormous garage in the back. I don't think the verbiage was clear that an accessory use is an accessory, meaning it's subordinate or smaller to the main use being the structure of the home, like a garage or a shed, not something that's going to be 3 times the size of the house. Because then you end up with a situation where how's that going to affect a dense neighborhood, like a you know, a smaller neighborhood, and all of a sudden someone builds a garage that's 30 feet high. So I think they're trying to rein that in. You correct me if I'm wrong, Josh, but I think that's the concern, that we need to clarify, you know, and clearly define what an accessory use is. It supplements the main use, which is the house.
Yeah, that's definitely a part of it, for sure. I think that this sentence is also, this new sentence is being added is just, you know, sort of society and things are changing all the time. And so it's basically, you know, it's kind of allowing flexibility for a property owner. You know, it's hard, instead of saying, you know, everything is accessory use, instead of, you know, listing everything that's potentially an accessory use, it's just allowing, if someone's proposing something that's not a barn, that's not a shed, that it's kind of giving an opportunity to someone to say, if it meets, you know, that it's an accessory, if it meets the definition of accessory use in you know, section 40, that this, you know, the accessory use, you know, is allowed. It's how I read it is it's sort of just giving some flexibility, which I think is generally beneficial.
Thank you. Mr. Chairman, you know, flexibility is good, but when you put a sentence in there that says that it must meet the accessory use definition, I think you're taking flexibility away. I'm not going to make a big issue of it now. As we go through, I'll work with you guys to see what it looks like when it goes to FinCom and things like that. I went down to Roy's. I think there's no problem with that garage. It's a good-looking property. You've got site dimension. You've got restrictions of height. You couldn't make something, Jim, 3 times bigger than the house because you would have height limitations, wouldn't you?
But you gotta admit that barn that he put back there is larger than the existing building.
Which I don't have a problem with. Larger doesn't,
I think the intent is that it has to be a subordinate to the main structure. If you took that same building and put it on School Street, or put it on, anywhere in Residence 1 where you had a 10,000 square foot lot and you're right up against your neighbors or less, and you added that, I think you're gonna have a lot different opinion of that. Now, granted, that was in an area that's,
wide open, yeah.
a larger area, and it's been established, and not casting any aspersions on anyone, but I think that depending on where you are in town, if you put that next, if, someone on your street decided right next to you to put in a large 30-foot tall garage, that would be a problem for most people.
And I guess that's my question is, if you could put a 30-foot garage, that means you could put a 30-foot house also, correct? I mean, the height restrictions, I don't know the laws as well as you guys do, but basically, if you're in an area that the height restriction is 30 feet, it's 30 feet for no matter whether it's an accessory dwelling or the primary
Well, I think the
dwelling.
intent is, if you're going to increase the size of your home, to make it a larger home, you're expanding the home, versus we're going to put a subordinate building that's not a primary residence, that maybe we're going to make a large garage, and we want to put a six-car garage. on
But
our
isn't in
lot.
that district, isn't it, it mentions 3-car maximum, 3-car garage? Mm-hmm. So, like I say, I don't want to belabor the point. I just worry about it being called housekeeping when you're actually restricting. I don't understand this 10-foot to 20-foot. I wish that Brian was here, because he made the comment that you could have a 30-foot garage, and this will stop them. So just kind of look at it, we'll work at it, and
Yep.
see where we go. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, other questions from the audience? Bill, can you get on that? Call the town staff on that for me. I think we might need to call the janitorial services they usually are over here around this time to close up the meeting. Maybe someone can get that alarm off. Sounds like someone opened a door somewhere
Sounds like someone opened a door.
that they shouldn't have. Any further questions on housekeeping? Hearing none, let's move on to, Josh was gonna give us kind of the next steps.
Yeah, so you kind of, you mentioned kind of, the language to FinCom and the Select Board. So, yes, we were going to at least electronically going to send the Select Board and FinCom all of the language, a red line version and a clean version, or at least one or both. Both bodies, or anyone in town, any board or committee, but we were particularly going to send them everything that we have right now.
Do we have town meeting member email addresses, or are we still doing the paper version?
We might. I'm not really exactly sure.
Yeah, it seems to be.
Would you?
I'm just saying that if you send that on some of the things, people might say, well, what do we, I know the actual girth of the changes is cumbersome to deal with.
Sure.
From a paper standpoint.
here.
Yeah. So, but there might be people interested who aren't here this evening and haven't looked at it until they actually show up at the meeting to say, where is it in the zoning bylaw? And, if we can get the word out.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I know you don't. On the website right now, we do have a Word document of this that
Okay.
we could
Marked up
I
line?
think yeah. I think
It's on the website.
actually when Brian was sending out emails to a part of the MBTA kind of public outreach piece when we were inviting, we had like 20 people here plus. We could certainly send just a link to our website with the word, the red line Word document, and just say, hey, these are the zoning amendments that we're proposing for the February 5th town meeting. We
Okay.
could, I wonder if it makes sense for that piece, or I guess we could talk right now. I think what we were thinking was we'd send the language that we have right now to the select board in the FinCom. We'd come back on January 9th. If there were any questions or comments from them, or even, there were a couple of ZBA members who indicated that they would, are still reviewing it. And then on January 9th, we were hoping to close the public hearing. If you think that it would be beneficial to send an email, to town meeting with a link sometime this week rather than like January 10th, I think that we're obviously we want to be as transparent and open.
Yeah, the sooner
much-
I think we send it out.
Yeah,
'cause I
because
think-
it's probably, not that, there probably won't be like, even if there were kind of moderate changes, I think that you'd at least get a feel for, what is happening. So that probably is a good idea to do. We could do that.
Yeah, before the holiday, as a draft, I think, and
Yeah.
if you need from the board to have the clerk make a motion to,
Yeah,
pass it on, I think we could do that when
Sure.
when you're ready for us to
We-
do that.
we definitely are. Yeah, that would be great.
Okay. Do you have anything further? So January 9th, and then the next meeting after that, so people know?
So from a staff standpoint, we'd like to send what we have right now to the select board, finance committee, and we can send it as a link to the town meeting members also. And then on January 9th, we would bring forth any comments, questions, clarifications, just like we've been doing. Between now and January 9th, we could send out a draft of a self-storage definition.
Okay.
And then on January 9th, we are hoping that to close the public hearing and send a with a recommendation to town meeting. So,
Okay. Lou, could I have you form that in the motion to pass this along?
Okay, sure. Okay. Just one clarifying question I have, just with respect to sending this along to town meeting members. Would we want to send it just as a link, or do we also give it some sort of option to, if they want to come to town hall and get a paper copy or something like that? I don't want to be burdening town staff with that, but I'm not sure if everybody has email access.
yeah, we'd be open to, I'm not sure if we want to print like 180 or 144 of these,
But if
but
someone-
No.
But if- but if-
Double side
but if there was a couple, I
might be.
don't think that we would, turn them away.
Right, I think it would be nice if we can make that option
For sure.
part of sending the link to say, like, if you find most people would just probably be able to print it and such, but
Sure.
you may have some folks who would benefit from
Yeah, for sure.
get a,
Yeah, no, I think we're definitely open to helping and showing everyone everything that we're proposing. So,
Yes.
All the doors are locked. Nobody could get in here if they wanted to right now. I went outside and got locked out.
Really?
Yep.
Did you break a
So I
window?
called, police department.
Oh,
told them
okay.
What was going on?
Thank you.
Okay.
Thanks, Bill.
so,
Can you have a public meeting when all the doors locked?
No. You're supposed to have access, that's why I was concerned about the door being closed.
the internal door.
You're supposed to leave the door open, but in light of the fact that,
Front door, as soon as you walk, everything's locked.
that's odd. Must be on a timer or something.
must be,
They must have forgot to reset the alarm.
maybe yeah.
The alarm must have been on timer. Yeah, they have the janitor usually comes and
Okay.
shuts everything down at the end of the meeting. You know, they usually come around 9 or whatever. You'll see people come in my experience.
Okay.
But we can get out, right?
Yes. Okay.
Well, we're going to be wrapping up soon.
Yeah,
Okay. All right, so let's see if I can make a,
I could, yep, sorry. I could have something if you need it, but
what's that?
I have some language if it would be helpful, but.
Sure.
Might do it. Nope.
Okay. All right, so this doesn't include the town meeting, but I think we can
Right.
say.
Yeah, for sure, you can amend it.
Okay. So, so I'd like to make a motion to send the proposed zoning amendments for the special town meeting to the other town boards and committees, including the Select Board and Finance Committee, for official comment, to include forwarding a web link to all the town meeting members with a notation that they may come and get a paper copy from Town Hall if they require. And so that's forwarding it along. Do we want to add the dates as well?
Okay.
And so that's going to be sent, so moving to send the proposed zoning language and amendments to other town boards and committees, including the Select Board and the Finance Committee for official comment, including sending as a web link to the town meeting members with an option for them to come and collect a paper copy if required, within the week.
Sure.
Within the week, and then between now and, we want to continue with it between now and January 9th, was the discussion about the, a possible self-storage.
Yeah.
So I think we got to clarify. We're going to,
I don't know if we want to get into
we're continuing the public hearing, but
That's right.
we're moving it. It has to be moved before, when is the Selectmen and the FinCom meeting? It's before the 9th, isn't it?
No, it's after.
Okay,
Oh.
all right. So we're going to, so
But we
all
do
right.
want to get them, but,
we're moving to send the drafts, I guess.
That's right,
what
that's
you're
right,
saying.
that's right.
okay. I think we'll just leave it at that then, just sending the, so I'm moving to sending the drafts to the relevant town boards and committees, including Select Board, Finance Committee, and a web link to the town meeting members, along with the opportunity for them to get a paper copy if they require.
Thank you, Lou. The motion's been made. Do I have a second?
Second.
Seconded by Jean. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? None. Thank you. All right, the next item on the agenda, 152 Endicott Street, has been.
Jim,
Do we
sorry.
need to move to continue the public
Yes.
hearing?
That's right.
I'm sorry. Yep. Go ahead, Lou.
Okay, move to continue the public hearing on the zoning bylaw amendments to our, to the next meeting of January 9th, 2024.
Do we need an action date of the 12th or the 15th? No. Okay. Motion made. Do I have a second on the motion?
Second.
Seconded by Jean. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? None. All right. Next item on the agenda, 152 Endicott Street, a request for roadway improvement plan and site plan review. The applicant has requested a continuance this evening to our next meeting on the 9th. Did they provide a written continuance, Josh?
Yes.
Okay. So if we could get a motion to...
Before that, before we continue the item, due to kind of engineering's comments and engineering's latest memo, planning staff is recommending that we make a motion. Let me see. Let me just bring it up real quick.
I have the motion in
Okay.
front of me.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Planning staff would like to work with engineering and the engineering staff regarding having a third-party review related to the sewer and wastewater of the proposed project. So we were just ask that the board make a motion before continuing this item.
Okay?
Okay.
If you would, Lou?
Sure. Okay, so this is a motion regarding 152 Endicott Street, sewer/wastewater peer review. This is to certify that at a meeting of the Danvers Planning Board held on December 12, 2023, by a motion duly made and seconded, it was voted. The Danvers Planning Board authorizes planning and engineering staff to collect funds from the applicant and choose a peer review consultant to review and analyze the sewer/wastewater associated with the proposed development project at 152 Endicott Street under MGL 53G, outside consultants. All unused funds will be returned to the applicant. Signed on December 12th, 2023, James Sears, Chair.
Motion's been made. Any discussion?
Yeah, it's not entirely clear from the memo, sort of what are they trying to get at with the consultant? Sort of what's the question at heart of that?
Because they asked for continuance, don't know how much kind of back and forth. Essentially, the consultant would be looking at the sewer capacity on that corridor and/or also just related to the existing pump station and just the sewer from the proposed project and the sewer capacity in this area. So.
At the last meeting, you indicated that engineering had already determined that there wasn't enough capacity in the sewer. Isn't that right?
I don't know if that's an accurate statement. I would say that the engineering staff would like confirmation that there's sewer capacity for the project in its entirety, to have the sewer/wastewater be dealt with appropriately.
Thanks.
Was there a second on this motion?
No, I open it up for discussion.
Okay, sorry.
Anything further? Anyone? This is not an open public hearing, so this is just for the board. All right, the motion's been made. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? None.
Okay.
Thank you.
Sure.
All right, next item is
We have to have a motion to continue that item.
okay.
Sorry.
Okay. May I just ask through the chair, is there are we looking, they wanted to
Yep.
continue the item to the 9th. Is there a continued action date as well?
Yes, there is in the same letter.
It's in the, so it's the 15th?
That's right. It's January, Lou, it's January 15th, 2024, as indicated in the letter from their council.
Understood. Okay. Okay. Okay, so I'd like to move to, this is with respect to 152 Endicott Street, request for roadway improvement plan and site plan review pursuant to Section 4 of the zoning bylaw, submitted by JBM Danvers LLC for property in the Commercial 3 zoning district. Applicant proposes to improve an existing way, Chalet Court, to access a new retail/commercial building and a new hotel. Assessors map 63, lot 14. Move to continue the item to the planning board meeting of January 9th with a corresponding revision of the action date to January 15th of 2024.
Motion been made. Do I have a second?
Second.
Seconded by Jean. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? None. All right. We good? Moving on to meeting minutes of November 28th, 2023. We're missing Tori. Everyone else was in attendance. Any questions or alterations or deletions or amendments from the board? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion to approve the minutes of November 28th.
So moved?
Do I have a second?
Second.
Seconded by Jean. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? None. Anything further from staff?
Not at this time.
Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays to everyone.
You as well.
And I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.